Hey, Jill, get your mic turned on. Can't hear you.
It was Sunday afternoon, and we had one more man who was going to show up. And he was coming over to meet a 14-year-old boy. And I believe we had a description of his car. So we see it pull up, and it's an SUV.
He's in the driveway, Jill, but I can't hear you coming back at me. He's backing out now. He's backing out of the driveway. He's backing out of the driveway. Yeah, looks like he's going to park on the street. Can you hear me, Del?
He gets out and goes to the rear passenger side, and we think maybe he's going to get beer, pizza, stuff that we see these guys bring all the time. Instead, he grabs the hand of his 5-year-old son and leads him out of the car and up the driveway. And I hear Frag say,
"Oh, no." He brought his son with him. He's got his child with him.
Apparently, the mother of the child, his wife, was working that day. He was in charge of the child and figured he'd just bring him along. And there was a collective gasp that you could hear in the house.
He's going up to the front door and he has his child with him.
Go around to the back. This door doesn't open.
He's one of these guys who had a very short online chat, but then on the phone is graphic about what he wants to do. And he has this conversation with Dell, who's posing as the 14-year-old boy.
Making the turn, coming in the back door, coming through, walking into the living room, holler out.
And so I'm thinking, all right, how do I handle this? And so he comes in, he's got the kid by the hand, I walk out, and he's startled. I got to tell you something, and I'm going to tell you just straight up right now. I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC.
Okay.
We're doing a story on adults eating children, and since you have your child here, I'm not going to pursue this.
Okay.
But I think you know what you were doing here, don't you?
No, I was just doing the take some conclusion.
Take a boy out to lunch you met on the internet.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
My point is, because your child is here, I think it'd be best if you just went ahead and left.
Yeah, I agree. I never going to do this again.
And of course, Frag is talking to the police saying, you know, this has got to be a different sort of arrest.
Rob, we're going to send this guy out. We're not going to interview him because he got his kid.
Sir, right there. You come here. You come here. Let go of the child.
As gently as the female officer scooped him up, he still had to see his father get arrested.
Please give me my son, please. Can we please have my son, please?
Did somebody get the car seat out of his vehicle?
You got to remember that these guys who work with me on these investigations have done other investigations with me in some of the darkest parts of the world and exposed some of the most tragic things you can see happen to kids and people. And they were just blown away. I mean, some of these guys were in tears.
You're gonna put your seatbelt on, all right, buddy?
Put your seatbelt on, buddy. You got to drive for a 2-minute ride, okay?
Based upon his interview with police, the chat log, and everything else, it doesn't seem like he was going to involve the child in any sex act. It seemed like he was going to set the kid up in a room with a DVD and go do whatever he was going to do with this 14-year-old in another location in the house. During his interview with police, he suggested that it was the lack of intimacy in his marriage that drove him to do this. There was a state investigation to see if the boy in any way had been abused. Pending that, relatives have told us that at first the boy was living with the mother, then the boy went to go live with other relatives because the mother took the father back in. And that was the situation.
Did I really just say that? Did I do it again? Is there something I'm missing? Is it all in my head? I've got this feeling like we've been here before. Please tell me you like this. Please give
Hey
me some
guys,
more.
It's Morticia. Yay! So, today we are doing Clifford Wallach. And the interesting part of Clifford Wallach is not going to be the chat log. It is going to be the follow-up notes that Xavier will be sending over. So, if you guys don't know, his chat log is very, very short. I mean, I'm talking like Stanley Kendall short, if not actually shorter than that. It might take like 5 minutes. It's very, very short. But again, the interesting part will be the follow-up from Xavier about what happened at the house when he showed up with his son. Not Xavier, obviously, Clifford. The way I said that was unclear, but you guys know. So, we're going to do his chat first. He does not have any phone calls, and that is because the calls were being recorded by the FDLE, which is the police department. So they don't have the calls for that. There is just a verifier summary of what they were. Well, what they talked about is what I mean. So, and that will be at the end. So yeah, unfortunately we do not have access to those calls. But let's get into it. Join the Discord if you want to. I am recording this on the Discord's birthday, 1 whole year. Yay, happy birthday, my Discord. It won't come out until like 2 days later, but I'm recording it the day of. And so happy birthday to the Discord. So another note before I get into it is that I am going to be using a female decoy voice for this because I'm recording it by myself. That is to differentiate who is talking more easily. But as we all know, Cliff did show up for a boy. But I can't do a male voice and a young male voice. It doesn't differentiate enough. So I will be using my female decoy voice. I just didn't want you guys to be like, wait a minute, what? But yeah, he definitely showed up for a boy. I don't think I have to say anything else. Let's just get into it, huh? So it starts out, some guys bring beer, condoms, flowers. Clifford brings his toddler son. And this bust was by Don Pedro, who, other than J Alternative and Seth Roberts, I feel like I'm missing one of the gay contribs. I don't know, maybe it'll come to me. But anyways, other than Cliff, Don Pedro also did Anthony Sorrentino and did Antitrust. I can't remember which one that is. I know it's a TCAP one. He did Dallas Lee. He did Steve... Oh God, what's his name? Damn it. Steve Cartledge, that was it, from Petaluma. Yeah. Okay, Antitrust is Sam Harrison, who's, I believe, unaired, but I don't remember. He did Dan Swinney, he did Ken Brinkman, he did David Kay. Like, a lot of the gay chats that you guys are familiar with were done by Don Pedro, so. All right. This is Clifford Wallach. He's a very rough 33. His AOL IM is PhotoFix with the F and the PH switched around because he's interesting. He's from Naples, Florida. And there is an introductory paragraph to this. It says, yes, PhotoFix. I've been waiting anxiously to post this asshat, as have a lot of you site readers, I'm sure. You may remember him from such Dateline specials as To Catch a Predator, Fort Myers, Florida. This is the asshat that made me, and many other people, physically ill. For you see, apparently, quote, Jason, real name Clifford, thought it would be a good idea to bring his 5-year-old son with him for a sexual liaison with a 14-year-old boy he had just met on the internet. So yeah, PhotoFix is a special kind of dirtbag. As you can see, this chat is exceptionally brief. It would have been longer, but this predator was adamant about not typing what his intentions were. As you read the chat, you will notice that PhotoFix appears to be practiced at carefully wording his statements. His constant references to, quote, fun, wanting to meet and, quote, see what happens, all implicate he knew what he was doing, and he knew what he was doing was wrong. And now, the chat. And I'm just going to break in right here to say that Cliff is still very angry about the fact that he has to be a sex offender, and he spends a lot of time on the internet bitching about it, so this might get taken down. So if you would like to... I can't even say, like join the Patreon. That's where I put my videos that go down. That's where I put them. So, but if this goes down, you won't know to look there unless you listen to my other videos. So anyways, let's get into the chat. It starts and ends 4/23/2006. Hi, Jason here. Smiley face.
Sup, Jason, I'm Tony, 14M Fort Myers.
Nice to meet you, Tony. How's it going, bro?
Is going.
You looking for fun or long term?
I don't know, how old are you?
Here, 33, you?
Look up, I say already.
Okay.
14.
What you like to do, bro?
I like snowboarding, skiing, tennis, golf, video games. You?
Just like to have fun with whatever I'm doing.
Cool, yeah, fun rules. I like to have fun too.
Cool, what you look like? You gay or bi?
I'm like 5'9", 130, dark hair and eyes. I'm gay. You?
Here, 5'7", brown, blue, 190. 190 my fucking ass.
Coolio.
What you doing now? Looking for fun?
I don't know, I like fun always. I'm sitting here doing nothing, being bored.
You got a pic?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, send.
Sent.
You wanna hang?
Just hang.
You wanna?
Well, I don't know. What you wanna do?
What you wanna?
I don't know. What do you like doing?
Having fun. We could see what happens. Just fun all the way down. Everything is just have fun. Having fun. You guys know what he means, though.
Like what?
You up for it?
Up for what? Fun?
Yeah.
What did you want to do?
I don't know. Let's see. Can you think of something you want now?
I don't know. Maybe. What did you want to do?
You bored me too, so let's have fun together.
What's fun? Like messing around?
Sure.
Oh, okay. I suppose if you like me. Did you send your pic? No, you didn't.
Where you at?
McGregor.
That's where you want to meet?
Yeah, come to my house. What all do you like doing with guys?
I don't like typing about it. You gotta sell.
Yeah, let me find it. I'll give you the number if you send your pic. That shit never worked for me. You gotta email it. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then it says that the instant images invitation was canceled. That's what you used to use to send pictures over AOL. Well, AIM.
You there?
Yeah, trying to figure out to send you a pic. I'm not too good on these.
Oh, okay. If you click and drag the pic into the email box where you type, it'll go in there. You see how?
Sent. You home alone?
Yeah.
Can you go out?
Yeah, sure. Cool pic, man. Who's the kid?
And then the decoy note says, the pic he sent had his young son in it. Notice how he doesn't even mention that he's planning on bringing him over to the house with him.
Is that yours?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, now you want me to call?
If you wanna.
Yeah?
And then the phone number.
Okay, I'll call in a sec. Is that 239?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, you in Fort Myers?
No, but close.
Okay, so is it okay if I call now and I ask for Jason?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go and get the phone.
Cool, you there?
Yup, calling now.
Okay. And that's the end of the chat log. I'll do the verifier notes from the phone call. There's a little paragraph that says the conversation switches to the phone. Once on the phone, Clifford was still guarded, but eventually spilled his true intentions to Dell. The calls were being recorded by the FDLE, so the phone calls, along with the chat above, were enough to charge and convict Wallach. And then the verification notes say his kid is screaming in the background, says he likes oral, says it's cool, likes to give and receive, wants to do it, as in oral, alone till 12 midnight, wants to do it discreetly, worried about the neighbors seeing him, and driving a Blazer. And that is the end of the of the chat log of Clifford Wallach, and now we'll do the conviction. So they quoted the part where he was like, cool pic, man, who's the kid? I guess he thinks soliciting a young kid in text is less dangerous than talking about oral on the phone. He was wrong, and yes, it's very disturbing with a guy goes trolling around for dangerous sexual meetings with a picture of his young son on his profile. Clifford Wallach is a man that most everyone who follows what we do remembers. It's been replayed quite a bit on NBC, with Frag intoning, "Oh no," in that familiar way. Wallach is the Fort Myers predator who brought his young son along to meet what he thought was an underage male for sex. A very disturbing case. Wallach thought he'd go to trial and beat the charges. Wallach, like all predators who think that, was wrong. Convicted quickly, Wallach is still waiting sentencing. He will be sentenced on January 28, 2008. We're hoping for a good sentence for this disturbing predator. And then the contributor notes from Don Pedro. Like I said in the chat log for this scumbag, I have been waiting quite a while for this case to be resolved. You may remember Clifford Wallach from Dateline Fort Myers. He was the asshat who brought his young son with him to a sexual liaison with a 14-year-old boy. As you can see, the chat was not very long. Wallach was incredibly guarded online. I figured he might open up on the phone and had Del Harvey do the verification. Wallach admitted to Del on the phone exactly what he wanted to do. There was no need to have Wallach go back online to type exactly what he wanted, as the calls were being recorded by the FDLE. I would like it known that at no time did anyone know that Wallach was going to bring his young son to the house. He did not say a word to me in the chat and did not mention it to Del on the phone. It was a complete and utter shock to everyone at the house when, after getting out of his Blazer, Wallach went to the back seat to retrieve his son, and not a case of beer or something similar, which is what many of us thought while watching the scene unfold. I would like to commend Chris Hansen for handling the situation as he did, and also commend the law enforcement on site for limiting the young boy's exposure to his father's arrest. For those of you who are wondering the status of the young boy, last I heard he was not living with either of his parents. He was taken from both of them after Wallach's arrest. Wallach's wife decided to stick by him during this, so the kid was placed with other guardians. More responsible guardians, most likely. Wallach decided not to plead guilty and take his chances with a jury trial. Del and I traveled to Fort Myers and testified, Del on the phone calls and myself on the chat log. The trial took a day and a half. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict on both counts. I would like to extend gratitude to Del Harvey. Without her verifying talents, Wallach may not have felt comfortable enough spilling his true intentions. I would also like to thank the law enforcement that we worked with in Fort Myers. Their professionalism and dedication cannot be overstated. Thanks are also due to the state attorney's office in Fort Myers. Their dedication to this case ensured that a guilty verdict would be returned. And that is the end of the conviction. And since I forgot to do it at the beginning, join the Patreon if you want. Cliff's file will be posted there. It just has some pictures in it. Again, the phone calls are not, we don't have those. They were recorded by the FDLE, so they have them. We don't have access to them. So, yeah. So if you would like to see the picture he sent, I cropped his son out of it. I always do that when I make the files. If a predator sent a picture of a child or like family members and stuff, I crop them out. Or if it's just a picture of like the kids, I don't put it in the file. So I am a better father than Clifford Wallach because I took his son out of the picture before showing it to people. So yeah, if you would like to see that, I mean, there's no, XXX folder. There's no phone calls, so it's a pretty small file. But if you would like to see it, you are absolutely allowed to do that. You can join the Discord. You can join the Patreon. It'll be posted both places. So I hope you enjoyed this incredibly short chat log. And what you'll really enjoy, again, is the follow-up notes. So I hope you stick around for those. Current Tish is going to say goodbye, so future Tish can take over. So like, comment, subscribe. Do all that stuff. Subscribe to Malice, Gloom, Hey Blinken, everybody. And hopefully by the end of the week, I'll have recorded a chat log with someone other than myself. But you never know. So I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Hey guys, it's Future Morticia, and I am here with the promised follow-up. So 2 different people helped me with this follow-up, and I would like to thank both of them. Obviously Xavier, you guys know that one, but Joey also helped me a lot with the court documents and stuff, which I'm not going to read through them. There's a lot. The stuff that's covered in the court documents is also covered in the write-up that Xavier did, but I wanted them to include in the file of Clifford Wallach's. So Xavier's follow-up and the supplemental court transcripts that Joey got me are all in his file now. So if you checked his file when I posted it on my Patreon, this stuff was not included yet. I didn't have it yet. So if you want to see this, You can go check his file now. It is free on my Patreon if you're a member. So you can read all of this for yourself. It'll be included. But I am going to read some of this to you guys. It's going to be kind of long because there's a lot of articles that Xavier sent over that I find very interesting that I would like to read. So it's going to be a pretty hefty one, and Xavier's write-up itself is quite long, which is the best. I love it when he just goes off on the stuff that happened behind the scenes. It's so fascinating to me. So I hope it is for you guys too. So let's just get into it because it's going to take a while. So let's start. The first thing I'm going to do is read Xavier's write-up. So we'll start there, and then I'll tell you which of these I'm going to read to you as we go through it. All right, here we go. Clifford Wallach definitely stands out due to the, quote, bringing the small child situation to people who watch TCAP. For me, he stood out as another reason to be angry with Dateline at the time. So we knew ahead of time that he had a very small kid. This was the 5th TCAP sting. We had already seen basically everything you could imagine in both prior Dateline stings and non-Dateline media stings. So you'd think, a house full of professional news people, everyone is ready for that, no problem. Wrong. So Wallach shows up with his kid. We didn't know ahead of time that he was going to do that. The contributor, Don Pedro, did not know. Still, he brings up the kid and sends a photo of himself and the kid. And the kid could be heard on the verification call in the background while Wallach talked about the sex he wanted to have. So it's always a possibility. And from my perspective, I didn't find it all that surprising due to the fact that he was not the first time a predator had brought a kid to a sting. In July of 2005, we had a guy in Columbus, Ohio, bring his 22-month-old son to a sting in Trenton, Ohio. His username was One Lost Soul, real name of Mark Hill. And quick Morticia note, I remember that chat, actually. I did not remember that he brought a kid, but I do remember that screen name. Anyways, he brought Viagra, condoms, handcuffs, and his 22-month-old baby. The condoms, they were in his baby's diaper bag. Yeah. His defense, he was, quote, an incurable romantic person, which, wow. Morticia note, reading that, I got so angry the first time I read that, I wanted to put my fist through my monitor. Fuck you. An incurable romantic who can't stop, what, molesting children. Okay, cool. Anyways, sorry about that. You'll never cover him since he wasn't a TCAP guy, which you don't know that. But Malice, if you're listening to this, I don't know, maybe check him out. But Hill got a whopping 34 days in jail and not even lifetime RSO. Blammo. Point is, Wallach wasn't even the first time we had a guy show up with his young son. The Dateline producers, though, woo lad. He comes and gets the kid out of the back, and they absolutely lost it. I wasn't in the house, thank goodness for them, but I got the call from Frag about what was going on in the house. The producers were crying, depressed, wanting to shut the house down. It's early evening on the Sunday of the sing. We have guys scheduled after Wallach. So I'm telling Frag, hey, we have extra guys on the schedule. People have put in work. But Dateline wasn't budging. They were acting like they had to get out of there. Frag basically told me on the phone that Dateline and some of the cops were too emotional to continue, that even Dell and Pib were also being emotional about it, though to not to the same extent. It's one of the moments working on the show and stings in general back then that really stuck to me. Fucking knock it off and do the work. God damn. If you're so upset about this, so emotional, then how about the 2 to 4 more guys we could have pulled that night? They probably have kids. They probably have families. Might even have kids as victims. But nah, just too soft. Wallach pulls his kid out and marches up, and all that goes out the window. Big, tough, professional news people folding like wet spaghetti, wanting to go get drunk at their fancy dinners. Meanwhile, my ass has to huddle up with the team online and let them know to turn around the 2 people we have on the schedule and stop working other potentials that we've put time into, as well as any fast movers that might be on the line. Which also included guys I was working on, as I had already pulled 3 for that sting into the house myself. Needless to say, it was just another example of Dateline producers getting in the way, not really having the steel for the work. I documented on my channel the first Dateline and part of the second, talking about how softly they viewed, quote, younger predators, 18 to 28. from the first sting in Bethpage, as well as how they then tried to screw us over in Fairfax on the second Dateline by limiting who we could bring to the house based on age in a really stupid way. There was too much empathy from them early on. Then later on with situations like Clifford Wallach, too much emotional softness after seeing one of these guys bring his kid. So the house got shut down early on Sunday due to Wallach and his kid. A couple guys got to skate and get turned around mid-drive. It was one of those elements that left enduring anger at the myopia of certain Dateline producers. Sorry, I had trouble getting through the end there because I started to get really angry. And I've read this before, and I also knew that this was coming. Because he had told me about, he was definitely going to have notes on Wallach because of this, and I knew it, and I still got angry. But it's so frustrating that they could have had more people, more guys to get, and they turned them around because of this. Yes, obviously it's upsetting. Yes, obviously. Duh. You know what else is upsetting? Letting other predators go because you can't handle your shit. That's so fucking frustrating. I would have lost my mind. The amount... I have read through, as you all know, all of the PJ Chatlogs that were posted. Both pre-conviction era and conviction era. I've read all of them. And so at this point, I'm extremely jaded too. And the amount of bullshit that contributors have to get through and keep going in order to get these guys arrested, and then Dateline producers are like, oh, we can't, we're too sad. Fuck you. Oh my god. That is being emotionally soft. None of these Dateline producers could have ever been a contributor. They would have popped like grapes. Oh my god. Okay, sorry. Okay, and now we go on to the files that he has included. Number 1, news article on the trial, the McDonald's defense. I will be reading that one. Wallach actually went to trial, which, okay, cool. I guess he figured that since he wasn't overtly sexual in the chat log, saving it for the phone, that he'd somehow skate. He didn't. Jury deliberated for less than 5 hours before finding him guilty. His lawyer had tried a medley of defenses, primarily the, quote, McDonald's defense. That he was just taking his 5-year-old son and this young man he talked to online out from McDonald's. Then a bunch of thought police malarkey. End of the day, defense attorneys didn't have much to work with when their clients were delusional and wanted to go to trial. 2, screenshot of home on the schedule. This is a screenshot of him on the schedule used to format the sting. Prophetically, Don Pedro had noted that he had a small kid on the schedule we had in place, meaning that it wasn't a secret that he had a small kid, so it wasn't like the fact wasn't known ahead of time, just didn't know he was bringing him. 3, using Wallach as an example to a bigot. I will not be reading this one. It is quite long, but it is fascinating, and I suggest that you read it to yourself because it will infuriate you. But it is quite long, and quite frankly, I got so angry reading it that I don't think I can get through it. Just an example of how we used Wallach when dealing with bigots and their nonsense. Gays are pedophiles, actually. Bullshit. Of course, his reply to my email skipped over it because why was I fucking bothering to argue with morons to begin with? Young me was dumb sometimes. 4, the Mark Hill story. Just a story about Mark Hill, the guy with the 22-month-old son, just so you know I'm not whistling bullshit at you. I won't be reading that since it's not relevant to this, but I'm glad that he included it so that you can see that he's not whistling bullshit. Number 5, eviction story. I will be reading that. Just a short story about Wallach being evicted, and it includes elements of how his wife stuck by him. Apparently it's against HOA rules to solicit children. First good thing I've ever heard about an HOA. Hey, same goes for me. 6, offered fresh cookies. I will be reading this. A story mid-trial that I chuckled at. When your lawyer has little more to defend you with than, Your Honor, there were fresh cookies. That's the only reason he was going in. Then you really should have just taken the plea agreement. I mean, I love a good cookie, but still. 7, his daddy being dumb. Just a short story about his sentencing. Another guy whose parents loved him way too much. Quote, nobody got hurt here, Your Honor. Nobody. Joel Wallach said in court, adding that if his son is sick, then, quote, he needs help, not prison. I won't be reading that because those are those are the two like main points of that I would like to cover, and they were covered in the description. 8. Didn't blame us. Thankfully, Clifford said he didn't blame us for what he did, which really, Morty, at the time, I was really losing sleep over whether he blamed us. Tossing and turning all night. Big weight off. 9. Behind the scenes debate 1 and 2. I won't be reading these. They're very long screenshots. But I do encourage you to read them on your own. They're very interesting. Almost everything we did was debated by our own people behind the scenes, and this was no exception. Included 2 pages of screenshots of the debate behind the scenes, just a bunch of wild, uncaring psychopath vigilantes as we were painted in some circles, of course, which, that is, for those of you who haven't read that is sarcasm. Like, people were very upset, and they're not wild, uncaring psychopath vigilantes. But if you guys needed me to tell you that, then this is your first time being here. Okay. And 10, Marsha Bartell, and this is another one I won't be reading, but you absolutely should. But the quote that Xavier wrote for this gives you most of what you need to know, and it's wild. Okay. Only including as weirdo trivia. One of the Dateline producers at the Fort Myers sting was a woman named Marsha Bartell. She was crap. She was an associate producer under the main producer, Lynn Keller. She was bad at her job. She worked on 2 Dateline stings, of which Fort Myers was one of them. She was one of the people super emotional over Wallach bringing his kid. She would later go on to sue Dateline NBC after she was laid off at the end of 2006, alleging that we at Perverted Justice were evil people, and it was wrong for Dateline to work with us, and we begged everyone to show up and sent, quote, sexual material to minors, and a bunch of other clown shoes shit that many people on the internet actually seem to believe in 2025. Some of the dumber claims by people even today directly traced to this bullshit lawsuit by this baby bird that sucked at her job. Her lawsuit was tossed the following year, was completely meritless. We still got smeared with it a ton in media articles writing about it, few of which were ever updated to illustrate that her lawsuit was nonsense. This was my write-up about it, behind the scenes, when the news of the lawsuit broke. Yes, working with Dateline was not all sunshine, rainbows, and paychecks, and the Fort Myers sting, especially Clifford Wallach, was a good example of it. And that is the end of that. I will get into reading some of these now. But, yeah, like I said, I mean, this follow-up is almost exactly as long as the Chatlog itself, and I'm not even done with it yet, but... yeah, I'm going to read you a couple of those, but what the fuck? Like, Clifford Wallach was such a weirdly influential predator that they caught. So much that rippled out from his decision to bring his son. So many different things rippled out from that in this very strange butterfly effect. And I find that fascinating. I'm sorry if you don't. Actually, I'm not. I don't care. As long as I find it interesting, I make my content from myself. But I still hope you find it interesting. It'd be nice, but I find it fascinating. So let's get into a few of these. We are going to start with Didn't Blame Us. So it's a article entitled Notorious, in quotes, Predator. I've taken offense to those quotes. Gets stiff sentence by Kara Sapita. Lee County. One of the most notorious men to ever show up at Dateline NBC's To Catch a Predator sting house was sentenced to 5 years in jail on Monday. In April of 2006, Clifford Wallach showed up at the house in Fort Myers expecting to meet a teenager for a sexual encounter, and he had his 5-year-old son with him. TV cameras rolled as he was arrested. Monday, he apologized for his actions in court. Quote, "I deeply regret my decisions," Wallach told the judge. The 5-year sentence was the stiffest handed out to all the men caught during the Dateline sting in Fort Myers. Quote, "I do not blame my mistakes on the FMPD or Perverted Justice, the group that helped the police and TV show set up the sting," said Wallach. During his trial, a jury found Wallach guilty of child abuse and attempted lewd and lascivious battery. His parents attended Monday's sentencing, and his wife wrote a letter of support. Quote, "I've caused an enormous amount of national humiliation for my family that should never have happened," he said. Prosecutors gave the judge letters from the other family members expressing concern for the well-being of Wallach's son. Quote, "Your Honor, I've been severely punished by the loss of my son and have to bear that burden for the rest of my life," he said in court. As part of his 5-year sentence, Wallach must register as a sex offender once he is released from jail, and he cannot have contact with children, including his own. Okay, and next we'll be reading the eviction story. Naples man may face eviction after internet sting, by Tom Hansen. Clifford Wallach of Naples was one of 24 men jailed in a Dateline NBC internet sexual predator sting this past weekend in Fort Myers. Now, Wallach may be evicted from his home. Wallach, 40, was charged with 2 felonies, lewd and lascivious sex crime with a minor, and child neglect. Wallach brought his 5-year-old son to the decoy house, where he had arranged to have oral sex with a 14-year-old boy, according to Fort Myers police arrest report. Wallach and his wife rent a 2-story townhome at Stratford Place in North Naples. After his arrest, the Homeowners Association contacted their lawyers, who are drawing up the papers to boot the Wallachs from the complex. Quote, "We've turned it over to the lawyers and we are in the process of kicking them out," said Ron Dunnigan, who is the Stratford Place Homeowners Association Board of Directors. "There is a technicality that he is a renter without a contract with the management, so we have the right to have him removed." Wallach's neighbors were shocked of the news. They said they called him a family man who had extravagantly decorated his home at Christmas with flashing lights, a train, and a large inflated snowman. What? So you can't be a child predator if you decorate your house like stupid. Many of the neighbors, like Dunnigan, worried that the children at Stratford Place may have fell victim to Wallach. Dunnigan, 42, spent Monday evening passing out flyers to inform neighbors of the nature of Wallach's arrest. Quote, "You're concerned especially when you have a 10-year-old yourself," said Dunnigan, who talked to his son about the incident. Wallach's wife answered the door. A short brunette acknowledged that she was Mrs. Wallach and then refused to answer questions from the Naples Daily News. So that's the end of that one. And then we're going to read the McDonald's defense. This one's a little bit longer, but it is exactly what I wanted to highlight from the court transcripts. So we are going to read all of it. So this was published 11/16/2007, and it's by Kathleen Cullinan. Clifford Wallach tried to cast the whole incident as so much smoke and mirrors. The hidden cameras, the famous guy from NBC, the faux 14-year-old boy. Wallach, through his attorney this week at trial, urged a Lee County jury to see an online sex offender sting as a mock-up that unfairly snagged him. His intentions were benign, the argument went. And yet, there he was on television, trooping up the driveway of a rigged Fort Myers home with his 5-year-old son, looking for all the world like he was looking for sex. The jury mulled it over for nearly 4 hours before finding Wallach guilty on both counts of child abuse and attempted lewd or lascivious battery. The 41-year-old Naples man faces up to 10 years in prison. Wallach's is the latest in a string of convictions stemming from April 2006 to catch a predator sting. Assistant State Attorney Francine Donnarumma said many of the suspects have forgone a trial and pleaded out. She said Wallach's case differed slightly from the others in that, after meeting the person identified as a 14-year-old boy in an online chat room, Wallach didn't engage in overt sexual conversation over the internet. He spoke with the alleged teen over the phone instead, she said, and then when prompted, Wallach described his preferred sex acts. Donnarumma played a recording of that call at trial. The state asserted that Wallach's sex talk and his queries as to the whereabouts of the caller's parents prove he was looking to have sex that day with a child. When he pulled up the driveway of the decoy home and got out of his blazer, after the decoy teenager beckoned him in for chocolate chip cookies, and then led his son into the home, Donnarumma said Wallach had committed his crimes. Quote, "It's all captured, all on film, and then backed up with testimony," she told the jury during her closing argument. Wallach placed his son in danger and attempted to have sex with a young teenager. Wallach's attorney countered that the jury was being asked to play the role of the thought police. Thought crime. There was never any intention on Wallach's part to have sex with the person he'd met online, attorney Arthur Brandt said. Wallach had merely fantasized about younger-looking men and wanted to take his new friend and his son out to McDonald's, he said. Brandt said Wallach had no sexual interest in a child. Quote, "Where we're being placed is in the level of the thought police," Brandt told the jury. "He had a fantasy, okay? It's not against the law to have a fantasy." Wallach is due back in court for sentencing next month. And then we're going to do The offered fresh cookies one. The trial opens for a Naples man who brought young son to sex sting. I can't say that. That's very hard to say. Okay, this is also by Catherine Cullinan. Reality, at least the televised sort, would have it this way. Clifford Wallach packed his 5-year-old son into a Chevrolet Blazer one Sunday afternoon for a run up to Fort Myers where authorities say Wallach believed a teenage boy had extended an invitation for sex. Instead, the 41-year-old Naples man stumbled into a police sting and a national spotlight. Dateline NBC correspondent Chris Hansen proclaimed himself so appalled at the sight of the father and son that he turned Wallach right around, skipping the standard news interview into waiting city police handcuffs. This week, in a Lee County courtroom, a judge is being asked to reckon that broadcast version of reality with the law. Wallach's trial on charges of child abuse and attempted lewd or lascivious battery began Wednesday. It was expected to take 2 days. In the year and a half since the Dateline crew came to town, several other men snagged in the To Catch a Predator operation have looked over the state's evidence, the video footage, the chat logs, and opted to plead out. A typical punishment has included some jail time and probation. But Wallach is forging ahead with his claim that he has no intention of meeting a child that day. In his opening statement, defense attorney Arthur Brandt told jurors that Wallach believed the person he'd spoken to on the phone minutes before showing up at the house was indeed an adult, and he didn't intend, quote, to engage in any sexual activity with this person. The object was to go to McDonald's. And you can hear in the recorded phone conversations played for the jurors talk of a trip to the fast food joint. You can also hear a young child, apparently Wallach's son, squawking in the background as the callers talk about sex acts, a point the prosecution was eager to drive home. Among the witnesses who took their turns before the jury Wednesday were a volunteer and worker from Perverted Justice. That's the organization NBC hired to run the computer part of the sting. Much of their testimony went toward laying out the operation. Del Harvey, one of the workers, took the witness stand to say that the flat voice of a supposed adolescent boy on the phone was actually hers. She described how the decoy house just off McGregor Boulevard was rigged with the tucked-away cameras for the sting. Upstairs, Perverted Justice staffers were trolling online chat rooms posing as children. Assistant State Attorney Francine Donnarumma also played recordings of 3 phone conversations she said Wallach had with the disguised Harvey before and during his drive to Fort Myers. A child's voice can be heard in the background as they agree to, quote, just meet and see where it goes. At another point in the recordings, Harvey asked Wallach what he likes, and Wallach is heard talking about different types of sex. Wallach was taped asking when the parents would be home and inquiring about any nosy neighbors. He then said he would be on his way. Brandt asserted that Wallach only brought his child because he thought they were heading to McDonald's. Further, he only went into the house because he was offered fresh cookies. But most of all, Brandt claimed Wallach, quote, didn't understand, didn't believe, didn't recognize that this person was a 14-year-old boy. Donnarumma said the transcript of the chat log indicates Wallach was told the age at least once. And that is the end of what I will be reading for his follow-up. But if you would like to see the court transcripts where his lawyer tries to do the McDonald's and fresh cookies defense, they are in his file in the Xavier follow-up folder, the one titled Joey Supplemental. They're in there, and it is wild. It will make you furious that this was even a defense that they tried out. Like, the absolute hubris of thinking that this was going to work is insane to me. So that is the end of Clifford Wallach. Sorry I don't have phone calls, you guys. But that is what you get for a short one that only took about, I would say the actual chat log took maybe 10 minutes. We've managed to spool this out into like 40 minutes. So there you go. But yeah, I'm going to go maybe have a little bit of rage for a little while. Yeah. You guys going to as well? What a piece of shit. Can't say enough bad things about this horrible monster. I hope you guys, I don't know, enjoyed that. And I hope you don't pop a blood vessel with rage. So do all the stuff that I said in the in the chat log part, like, comment, subscribe, do all that, whatever you want to do. If you want to see the file and you're not a Discord person, you can go check my Patreon. It's there. So I love you guys so very much, and I will see you in the next one.
I know where we're going, but it's anyone's guess. The party's just started, and I'm already a mess. Maybe it's karma, or maybe dumb luck. Either way, this is perfect, and I don't give a fuck. I'm just looking for fun, but it's getting too late. You're just playing a game, and I'm taking the bait. So just have a seat right over there. We're doing this again, so try not to be scared.